Have you ever stopped to wonder if it's possible to love again after turning 60, 70, or even 80? Many people believe that the time for passion has already passed, that the heart matures to the point where there is no room left for a new beginning. But the truth is that at any stage of life, the longing for companionship, sharing, and affection remains an essential part of who we are. And this is where a delicate question arises. When the heart opens again, it's easy to get carried away by emotion. The loneliness of someone who has gone through divorce or widowhood can make the desire for companionship even more intense. Yet that same intensity can also lead to hasty decisions, rushed choices, illusions that come at a high cost, not only financially but also emotionally. On the other hand, refusing love out of fear is also a kind of prison. Life can be longer and richer than we imagine, and starting a new story may be one of the greatest gifts of this stage. This is the balance between an open heart and mindful steps that we're going to explore here. Throughout life, we all collect stories of love, loss, and new beginnings. When maturity arrives, especially after divorce or the loss of a partner, many believe there's no room left for new connections. But reality tells a different story. More and more men and women in their later years are discovering that the heart still beats strongly with the desire to share meaningful moments with someone. This happens because with life expectancy increasing, we now have decades ahead of us to be lived with quality. And living well means not only taking care of physical health, but also nourishing the soul with affection, conversation, and companionship. It's no surprise that relationships formed after 60 are becoming more common. Encounters that bring joy but also new challenges. The good news is that there's no age limit for falling in love. What does exist is the need to do so consciously, preserving dignity, emotional security, and also the practical aspects that come with adulthood. Because along with the tenderness of a new romance come issues involving family, property, inheritance, and even different expectations for the future. In this video, we're going to explore both sides. The enchantment of loving again, and the responsibility of protecting yourself from illusions or hasty decisions. You'll see that it's possible to experience this new beginning in a light, balanced, and safe way. When someone who spent most of their life in a long-term relationship suddenly finds themselves alone, whether through divorce or widowhood, the silence can feel heavier than expected. The emptiness of the house, the chair left vacant at the table, the absence of a familiar voice before bed. All of this awakens a sense of loneliness that often becomes unbearable. And it is within this longing that new relationships tend to emerge. There's nothing wrong with wanting companionship. On the contrary, it's a deeply human need. But precisely because this desire is so legitimate, it's easy to fall into emotional traps. When loneliness speaks louder, there's a tendency to mistake small gestures of attention for grand declarations of love. An unexpected call, an engaging conversation, a warm smile. These can all seem like signs of a promising future, when in reality they may simply mark the beginning of a connection without clarity. Another common risk is rushing. Many people dive quickly into serious commitments, driven by fear of missing the chance, or by the feeling that life is too short to wait. This haste, however, can lead to deep disappointment. It's often discovered too late that there were irreconcilable differences, misaligned values, or that living together brought more strain than joy. And we cannot ignore the practical side. Relationships entered into without reflection can affect not only emotional well-being, but also financial and family matters. Some people marry quickly without considering legal implications, only to later face conflicts with children or issues over dividing property. Love, when lived carelessly, can open the door to painful disputes that no one wants to face at this stage of life. It's important to say this. The desire to start over is not a weakness. It's proof of vitality, of a flame of hope that still burns inside you. But what can be harmful is allowing yourself to be guided only by emotion, without leaving space for reflection. Because at the end of the day, the heart needs companionship, but it also needs protection. And this is where we begin to glimpse the path to a new way of loving. More mindful, more balanced, capable of uniting tenderness with wisdom. The beautiful side of new relationships. Despite all the fears and risks, there is something profoundly beautiful about opening your heart again later in life. Many discover that this stage brings a freedom unlike what they knew in youth. There's no longer the same pressure to prove something to the world, nor the urgency to build everything from scratch. What is sought now is simpler and at the same time deeper. Genuine companionship. A new relationship can mean having someone to share daily life with, breakfast, a quiet walk, a doctor's visit, or even a long-dreamed-of trip. Small gestures, which might seem ordinary, take on great value when experienced together. The silence of the house no longer weighs as heavily when there is a voice to fill the space. Beyond affection, there are concrete benefits. Studies show that older adults in stable relationships tend to have better mental health, lower stress levels, and even greater physical energy. Shared laughter, mutual care, and the feeling of being important to someone all strengthen both body and mind. And it's not just individual benefits. Children and grandchildren notice the difference too. Seeing a parent happy, motivated, and full of life can be inspiring. It shows that aging doesn't mean stagnation, but rather possibilities. In many cases, late in life love carries a special gentleness. It may not be the fiery blaze of youth, but rather a steady flame, one that warms without consuming. That balance is where the true beauty of new beginnings lies. The most common risks. On the other hand, new relationships in later life also bring risks that can't be ignored. The first is rushing into commitment. Driven by loneliness or the fear of running out of time, many dive headfirst into serious relationships without truly knowing the other person. This impulse can lead to painful disappointments when daily life reveals habits, values, and expectations that were never discussed at the start. Another risk is mistaking attention for genuine love. A kind gesture, a caring word, or frequent presence may create the illusion of having found the right person. Yet this closeness doesn't always come with clear or compatible intentions. That initial illusion can later turn into frustration when differences begin to surface. There are also delicate family issues. Children and grandchildren may not understand or accept the new relationship. This can lead to conflicts, distancing, or even disputes over inheritance or property. In some cases, families put pressure on their loved one not to continue the relationship, creating an emotional burden that is difficult to manage. And of course, financial risk exists as well. Stories of people who married quickly and later lost part of their assets are not uncommon. Lack of clear agreements, avoidance of financial conversations, and blind trust can all result in irreversible losses. These risks should not serve as barriers to love, but rather as warnings. They show that haste and naivety can transform a promising new beginning into a source of pain. The key, therefore, is to allow yourself to love, without giving up prudence. Conscious decisions. If there's one secret to enjoying a new relationship later in life, it lies in conscious choices. Loving again is not only possible but also desirable, as long as that love is built with patience, dialogue, and maturity. The first step is to distinguish between passion and companionship. Passion is often intense, fast, and overwhelming, but it is also frequently fleeting. Companionship, on the other hand, reveals itself in daily life. Impatience with quirks, care in the face of physical limitations, the willingness to share responsibilities and joys. Allowing time for this difference to become clear is one of the safest ways to protect the heart. Another essential point is to observe actions, not just words. Promises may sound beautiful, but it is through consistent gestures that the truth of a relationship is revealed. The way someone handles small situations, a delay, a disagreement, a setback, speaks far louder than grand declarations of love. Open conversations are also decisive. It is crucial to talk about expectations for the future, where you want to live, how you envision spending your time, how each of you views family, and even financial matters. Avoiding these topics out of fear of seeming cold or too practical can create serious problems later on. Maintaining emotional balance is equally important. This means not abandoning friends, hobbies, or routines just to adapt to the new partner. On the contrary, keeping your individuality strengthens the relationship, because true love doesn't suffocate, it adds. Finally, maturity should be embraced as an ally. Life has already taught valuable lessons, and now is the time to apply them. Conscious decisions mean recognizing that the heart deserves affection, but that reason also plays a protective role. When these two forces walk together, the chances of experiencing a light and lasting love are much greater. Legal and emotional protection. Talking about love later in life also means talking about protection. That's because a relationship at this stage doesn't involve only feelings, but also responsibilities, property, and family bonds that are already established. Ignoring these practical dimensions can turn a beautiful story into a source of conflict. On the legal side, there are tools that bring clarity and security. Cohabitation agreements, prenuptial contracts, and even wills may seem like barriers to some, but in reality, they protect both the relationship and peace within the family. These documents prevent misunderstandings, safeguard assets earned over a lifetime, and ensure that each person's wishes are respected. But protection goes beyond the legal realm. It's also emotional. Entering a new relationship doesn't mean giving up your autonomy or the identity you've built over the years. Keeping clear boundaries, cultivating honest dialogue, and preserving self-esteem are ways of protecting the heart from dependency or unnecessary strain. It's important to understand that speaking of protection does not take away from the lightness of love. On the contrary, when there is transparency and security, the relationship becomes freer to flourish without suspicion. Loving consciously is like building a house with solid foundations. It doesn't take away from the beauty of the walls or the flowers in the garden. It simply ensures that everything will stand firm over time. In the end, uniting affection with prudence is what makes a new beginning truly safe. The heart finds peace when it knows it can surrender without fear, because it has also learned how to take care of itself. We've reached the central point of everything we've discussed so far. Loving again in later life is absolutely possible, but the true secret lies in balancing heart and reason. Each gesture, each decision, Each step taken with awareness turns a promising relationship into a fulfilling and lasting experience. Picture a couple who met after years of loss and challenges. They didn't allow themselves to be guided only by initial attraction. They took time to truly know one another, spoke openly about expectations, boundaries, and values. They sought to understand not only what they felt, but also how they could protect themselves and their families. This careful attention and emotional maturity allowed the relationship to flourish in a healthy way, without haste, without illusions, without regrets. The climax of this reflection is realizing that late in life love does not have to be fragile or risky. It can be full, light, and enriching, as long as it is built with self-respect and attention to practical consequences. To love is not only to surrender to emotion. It is also to care for the other person and, above all, to care for yourself. It is in this balance between openness and prudence that the true freedom to begin again resides. The heart opens without fear, the mind stays clear, and life, having already gone through so many stages, becomes meaningful once again. Yes, it is possible to create new memories, feel joy, laugh wholeheartedly, and share precious moments, all while preserving the emotional and legal security that every stage of life requires. This is the essence of the message. Love has no age, but wisdom is what makes that love sustainable and whole. Throughout this video, we've explored different aspects of starting a new relationship later in life. We've seen that life continues to offer opportunities for love, companionship, and joy, even after loss or divorce. We've also learned that these new beginnings require attention. It's important to recognize the risks, distinguish passion from companionship, make conscious decisions, and protect oneself legally and emotionally. The central point is simple yet powerful. To love again is both a right and a source of happiness, but doing so with wisdom is what ensures that love remains light, safe, and lasting. When we manage to balance emotion and reason, our relationships become stronger, healthier, and more fulfilling. More than just starting over, it's about living fully, without haste, without illusions, but with courage to embrace the new. Each gesture of care, each open conversation, and each thoughtful decision builds a solid foundation where love can grow without compromising one's own well-being, or that of those around us. Old age is not a synonym for inevitable loneliness. It is an opportunity to rewrite stories, to rediscover joy, and to share meaningful moments with someone who respects and values us. If this video brought you clarity or inspiration, share it with someone who may also be experiencing or considering a new relationship in later life. Talking about these topics helps spread awareness and care. Subscribe to the channel to receive more content that supports a fulfilling, emotionally balanced, and protected aging process. Leave your experiences or questions in the comments about late life love. Your story may inspire others to love with both freedom and wisdom. Remember, starting over is always possible, as long as it's done with self-respect and mindful choices.